Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Kyle Bauer is in San Antonio and visits with Dr. Darrell Peel about the complexity of beef demand in the U.S. and around the world. Next up, Greg Akagi brings us the Kansas soybean update. Duane Toews visits with Stephan Wittig with the U.S. Grains Council about the direct relationship between Kansas and Mexico and how a direct rail line between the two has impacted the market. Then we find out what's going on around the state with the Kansas Farm Bureau update. And to wrap up, it's Plain Talk with Kyle and Duane. It's all coming up on Farm Factor. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
I'm Bob Swartz, and I've devoted the last 43 years to helping Kansans reach their retirement goals and to protect the family farm. At Bob Swartz Financial, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always dreamed of. Our team of professionals can help you create an efficient strategy using a variety of investment vehicles to help you address your financial needs and your concerns. Bob Swartz Financial values commitment and transparency.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Up first, Kyle Bauer visits with Dr. Darrell Peel to discuss the complexity of beef demand.
I just got to listen to one of your presentations, or a presentation of you and one of your grad students. There was a few things that were startling to me. First of all, it isn't really about beef demand. It's about demand for hundreds of cuts of beef.
I think that's right. You know, we've always tried to sort of simplify beef demand. We talk about it as though it's one thing, but beef is hundreds, really thousands of different products in terms of final consumption. And so demand becomes much more complicated because it's not just about beef, pork, and poultry. It's about this beef product versus that beef product. And so you really have to kind of get inside the carcass to really understand those demand issues.
Well, and the trade-off of, like you mentioned, of products against themselves because of price change.
That's right. All those price relationships are extremely important. So, you know, a consumer walks into the store, they may be interested in a particular steak, but they're going to look at the other steaks, see how they're priced. They might look at a, pork product or a chicken product as well. But most of the time, it's a trade-off between those steaks. And so, there's a lot of intricacies in the marketplace, particularly when you start talking about some products go to one segment, so they may go to retail. Other products tend to be primarily used in food service, and yet there's a very important price relationship between those products, at least at the wholesale level, that those can change and have impacts each on the other, and they don't know each other at all and don't know why that impact is happening to them in many cases.
It was startling to me. I have heard for years about certain cuts of beef go to foreign countries for exports from the U.S., but really, even within our own country, we have segmentation. We ship different parts of the beef to different areas of the country because the demand is best in that, and it varies quite a bit.
It does vary tremendously, and so, you think about a tri-tip product, very popular in the Pacific Northwest, West Coast kind of a market. Most of the rest of the country doesn't know it, or at least doesn't know it by that name in many cases. Now it's spreading and it's getting a little more popular. Another great example is brisket. In the Southern Plains, I live in Oklahoma, you can go to any grocery store and get a packer trim whole brisket. You want to smoke a brisket? That's a very popular thing. I grew up in Montana. When I go visit my family up there, if I want to do a brisket for them, I go to the grocery store. It's not on the case. It's not something they routinely carry. I have to go to the meat manager and have him special order me a brisket if I want to cook one of those.
So as I sat and listened to that, we all know how important transportation is for agriculture in general, but transportation and distribution in beef is paramount and is maybe an unsung hero.
Oh, absolutely. Again, we're mixing and matching this tremendously diverse set of products that come out of this beef industry, all the things we do, and you think about all of the places that those products individually need to go in various domestic markets, as we've talked about, or into export markets or whatever. The logistics of this industry are just enormous, and we're talking about a fresh product most of the time. So, we don't have all time to do it. There's a tremendous amount of challenge in making that work and making it work on a regular basis.
You brought up the issue of fresh, and one last thing. As I looked, though, at the seasonality of different products, it was almost impossible to offer. For instance, at holiday time, the prime rib demand's very, very high. Well, you can only store those so long.
That's right. You got two problems there. One is you got a tremendous amount of demand in a very focused period of time. So Christmas and New Year's prime rib demand, you got to order those a month in advance, but you can't make enough of them for that very specific time period. So, and yet on the fresh side, you've got limited amount of time to store it. So a lot of challenges, some new technology coming into place with using things like what's called deep chill, which is not quite frozen, but almost frozen, that allows for extended storage. So that a retailer can go out and start procuring that product as early as August and have it in storage when the time comes. So a lot of challenges in the marketplace to sort of balance seasonal supply and demand and make it all work out.
We're visiting with Dr. Darrell Peel of Oklahoma State University. This is Kyle Bauer reporting from San Antonio.
Thanks, Kyle. After the break, it's this week's Kansas soybean update. Stay tuned.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
This segment brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. John Ray is joining us. He is the Kansas Soybean Commission's representative to and the vice chairman of the Soy Aquaculture Alliance. John, you recently attended the Soy Aquaculture Alliance board meeting and the Aquaculture America conference in Hawaii. What was your impression of what you heard and saw of the aquaculture industry?
The aquaculture industry is quite large. We've seen presentations from anywhere from freshwater to marine fish to shrimp to oysters and clams. And there was 2 presentations that actually tied back to Kansas. There was one presentation on trout, that they are being fed soy, and breeding lines are being selected on their tolerance to soy, and it's very promising. And another one was actually funded by the Kansas Soybean Commission, and it had to do with catfish and alder. And it's called an in-pond raceway. And what it does is it allows these fish, instead of being produced in the whole pond itself, it's more in about a third of the pond, and it circulates the water. So it actually keeps the waste away, it keeps the fish healthier, and they've actually seen where it is producing maybe up to a 10% increase in the total poundage coming out of those ponds.
The fish protein demand continues to grow.
You know, everybody hears by the year 2050 we're going to have to double our food supply. Well, fish is actually surpassed beef of being the number one meat consumed in the world. So especially in those areas where the huge population's going to be coming from, their number one choice of meat most of the time is fish. So the more soy we can teach these people to feed their fish is only going to help our business in the future.
But it's also the feed rations for any type of species in the aquaculture industry. I would assume that's pretty different and pretty complex too.
Well, it is, because, you know, there's over 1,500 different species of fish. Each species takes a different diet. It's not like feeding a chicken or a hog or a beef worldwide. You know, you can get by with one or two rations and come out pretty good. Here, a catfish or a tilapia can take 40 to 50% soy in their diet. And there's other marine species that can only tolerate a 5 or a 10% blend of soy in there. We're attempting to figure out how we can utilize more soy in those diets.
Those were the comments of John Ray, Kansas Soybean Commission's Representative 2 and Vice Chairman of the Soy Aquaculture Alliance. He joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
More Farm Factor is on the way. After this break, Duane Toews talks with Stephan Wittig about trade between Kansas and Mexico.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer it and work with you.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
We're back. Let's go to Duane Toews, who is with Stephan Wittig from the U.S. Grains Council to talk about Kansas trade with Mexico.
Duane Toews joining you once again on the program. An opportunity to catch up with Stephan Wittig, Director of Mexico for the U.S. Grains Council. Stephan, when we think about the relationship between Kansas and the United States in general in terms of working with Mexico, well, what a great neighbor Mexico has been and a great advantage that we have in shipping product there.
Yeah, thank you, Duane. It's very curious how a good relationship it exists between Kansas and Mexico, just because we have a rail line directly into Mexico. So that has been changing the panorama for the last couple of years now, since the signing of NAFTA and now with the ratified USMCA. We're going to be able to have and provide more of those certainties that investors need for being able to have broader businesses that use the products that Kansas produces into Mexico, not only corn, but also DDGs and also ethanol. And that's going to be great for both countries because this is a win-win relationship.
Think about the opportunities of those value-added products you referenced, DDGs and ethanol. That really ultimately goes back to the corn farmer's bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like, as I said, a win-win relationship just because that ethanol that can be produced in Kansas is going to help to lower the price of gasoline in Mexico. That's something that the U.S. has been living for some years now, and now with the rollout of E15 all the year long, it's something that you see at the price at the pump. This is something that Mexico is willing to see, wants to see. It's going to be a great advantage, and even now around 80% of the whole imports of fuels, of gasoline, is coming from the U.S. So of this 80%, 8% could become ethanol. And that's what we have been working on directly with Mexico, supplying all the technical expertise that the Mexican authorities need for being able to regulate in a correct way, so that ethanol is enabled, that it has all the learnings that the U.S. has gone over the last 20, 25 years, and be able to use this product directly.
Currently, I know there are some limitations in some of the metro areas in Mexico. I know U.S. Grains Council, corn growers, others are trying to alleviate that problem. But Mexico, just like the U.S., has a chain of command, so to speak, that's got to go through.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of we could say commercial interest that exists also, like ethanol substituted a product here, it will also substitute a product in Mexico. So there's a lot of resistance just because of this commercial relationship that's already existing. So it will displace a petroleum-based product. And of course, all the myths that you have heard for years and years in the U.S., that some of them even arose again with the discussions on E15. Well, those are the ones that we are here in Mexico, and that's we have been very diligent in being able to prove that all of those are just myths, and your cars won't break down. You won't be deforesting the jungle. It's something that just works, and it's not only Mexico, it's not only the U.S., it's 65 countries around the world that are already using some blends of ethanol. And starting at a 10% blending rate, that just makes sense because that's where the refiners found out where the benefits started. So going from 10%, maybe starting discussions on E15, or starting even on higher blends. Well, Mexico as an integrated market in North America, we have a very large fleet of flex fuel cars. So that's something we're also starting to look at and how to make the most benefit out of this integrated market.
We think about U.S. Grains Council offices worldwide. They've done a great job for a number of years building personal relationships, and ultimately it appears in world trade that's pretty key.
Yes, our market presence in Mexico spans like over 35 years now, and we have been able to work on each part of the demand chain, of the supply chain of the demand in Mexico, and being able also to foster a higher consumption of corn, of sorghum, of barley as a direct feedstock, or also the value-added products as we have, like as you mentioned, DDGs, ethanol, or even corn distiller's oil.
Well, our thanks to Stephan Wittig, Director of Mexico for the U.S. Grains Council, joining us on the program. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Come back after the break for the Kansas Farm Bureau update.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families in rural Kansas for more than 100 years. We're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Farm Bureau Update.
I'm Britton Rucker, and this is Ag AM in Kansas. I'm at the 2020 Young Farmers and Ranchers Conference, and with me now is Laura Hoffner. Laura, what is your role here at the conference?
Okay, so I am a member of the Young Farmers and Ranchers Kansas Committee, and I am also the chairperson of that committee.
So how did you kind of get involved with Kansas Farm Bureau?
It's kind of a long story. So about 6 years ago, I was undergoing some transitions. We had recently moved, I had an occupation change, and we had a young child. And my brother, I think, realized that I needed to get back into the world a little bit and change my view. And so he suggested that maybe I look into Kansas Farm Bureau, and he thought there was this conference available. And so I made some phone calls, and the next thing I knew, I ended up right here at the YFNR conference for the first time, and that was in 2015.
Now, did you come from a farming background, or what is your role in the ag industry?
Yeah, so I didn't actually grow up on a farm. My father's an agronomist, and so my whole life we were raised in a rural community and around that type of lifestyle, but I can't claim to come from an actual production farm myself. However, with that inspiration from my father, I decided that I was really interested in agronomy. So when I came to K-State, I pursued a minor in agronomy and also pursued education as well, and went out and did some industry things for a while, and now I'm teaching some agronomy courses at Fort Hays State.
Well, very good. And what is the real purpose behind the Young Farmers and Ranchers Conference?
We're really trying to engage young people across the state and unify them and give them a unified voice. So whether they're looking for support as far as educational opportunities or maybe other ways to network with other young farmers and ranchers, because as you know too, we discussed that you're from a farming community, it's hard to get off that farm sometimes. So this gives them an opportunity to get off the farm, have that education piece, have that networking piece. They can learn about what's going on in the political system right now. And it's just, quite frankly, it's fun. It's a great way for us to get involved and an opportunity for them to get involved in Kansas Farm Bureau.
Well, very good. A big thank you to Laura Hoffner, and I am at the 2020 Young Farmers and Ranchers. I'm Britton Rucker, and this is Ag AM in Kansas.
Stay with us. We'll be back after the break with Plain Talk.
Clyde Sutton, Nest City, Kansas. Lived on this place all my life. About a year and a half ago, got to where I couldn't saddle a horse. The pain was terrible. Read about stem cell. First it wasn't for me, then they started doing neck and back. Went and had it done. As you can see, I saddled a horse. I'm still building fence. Love to shoot a shotgun rifle, and I'm able to participate, not like I used to, but nevertheless I can do the things I used to do, and life is good.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Let us help feed your family.
Welcome back. Now let's see what Kyle and Duane are up to on Plain Talk.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer with Plain Talk, with the guy who always says never be quick to criticize yourself because it's unfair to all your friends and relatives who would like to do it for you. Duane Toews.
Yeah, you don't want to cheat them out of the opportunity.
Nah, they just enjoy it so much.
I got to admit, I've had a couple of times when I was a little too quick to get down on myself, and the reason I should have waited because it turns out I wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
I thought I was, and turns out I wasn't.
You know, a very wise man told me when I was younger that if an accident happens, or like you had said, don't assume you're wrong and don't admit your fault, because you don't know exactly what went on there. And I did that once. I was backing out of a slot in a parking lot, and I backed into a car. And it's like, I can't believe I did. I got out and just apologized all over myself for doing it. I felt like such an idiot. Turns out the guy was driving 30 miles an hour through the parking lot. That's why I didn't see him. And you are not in a good position to see what's going on there. Let the world sort it out.
Everything you see is from your perspective, but not the whole perspective.
Right. And I really have hated myself since then. That's been the core of all my hate toward myself. Self-loathing. Self-loathing all of that time.
Wow.
I know.
It's a long time to carry that since
it
you're
really
in high
is.
school.
It was my junior year.
Your fact or fiction question of the day, Kyle Bauer. Just like the skeleton of crabs and other crustaceans.
Okay, exoskeleton.
Chitin is a material in mushrooms.
Chitin.
Chitin.
You're really a mushroom guy these days.
Chitin. Mushrooms contain chitin, just like crabs or other insects that have a exoskeleton.
Exoskeleton. Well, first of all, I've never heard of chitin, and it seems extremely odd to me that would be the same material, because I don't eat the exoskeleton of crabs and lobsters and that sort of thing, but I do eat the exoskeleton of the mushroom. But that is too bizarre for you to make up, so I'm going to go with fact.
That's what it says.
That is
I
chitin.
guess that gives its form and shape.
Yeah, but it's not very tough. I mean, I was thinking, okay,
not nearly so tough as the exoskeleton
well,
of a crab.
I was thinking if you peeled a mushroom, would it still have body and shape?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you peeled a crab, does it have body and shape?
It's pretty
gooey.
Pretty soft and slurry.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Chitin is chitin, I guess.
Chitin. CHITIN.
Well, that'd be like when you're going kiting around town, right?
Not so much.
No, not so much.
Were you a kite flyer when you were a young lad?
I was not.
You grew up on a farm. I think farm kids get a bad break.
Okay, I know what I was about to say. What were you going to say, a bad break?
Well,
I grew up on a farm. There's plenty of wind.
Yeah, with
plenty of open space.
Plenty of jobs to do, too.
That was it. That was exactly it. It was like if I was outside with my dad, I will guarantee you we were not flying a kite nor even thinking about flying a kite.
Yeah, you didn't walk out on a nice, 10-mile-per-hour breeze and say, boy, it'd sure be nice to fly kites, Dad.
I will tell you the best time I had flying a kite, I was 27 years old, and a friend of mine, it was Sunday afternoon, we took our 2 3-year-olds out to fly a kite.
Yeah.
And we just had a ball. The kids didn't care, but we had a ball. He had it on a like a rod and reel.
I was going to say, do you use a fishing pole?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
And, when you get older like that, you kind of understand aerodynamics and you understand
drag.
And how important that tail is. And it's just a lot easier than as a kid. And it's like, this thing doesn't work. And it's like, well, we need to lengthen the tail. We need to shorten the tail. We need to adjust where we're pulling from. And, when you got 2 college graduates, we knew somebody who could do that. And so
well, it's amazing to me, but there's big competitions now and festivals in different cities across the country where flying a kite is more than just leaving the group alone.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.